Good morning, Umberto. We are going to start in 1 minute, and you can find translation, interpretation in the interpretation button, which we'll talk about in a moment. Hopefully you can see that. And we're going to start in one minute. Just let people coming in. I can see more people coming in. Okay, we're going to make a start. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to colleagues. Thank you so much for joining us for this 1 hour call briefing about our analysis. It's great to see so many people registered and so many people here. And we're looking forward to this rich dialogue and discussion. Next slide, please, Simon. Okay, before we start, we're in a Zoom call. So just some notes about this. Your microphone is muted. If you do want to speak at any point, raise your hand with the Zoom control, but we'll have time for discussion after the presentations. If you can, it would be really great to see you. So please activate your video camera, just so we can see the friendly faces in the call. By all means, add a comment and in the chat box with the chat icon. And if it's possible, many of you have already, to please rename yourself in the Zoom next to your picture to say your name and organization. And we have English and French interpretation, the English, French and Spanish interpretation this afternoon. So there's a interpretation button. If you click that, you can switch to the French or Spanish channels. Okay. Great. And the last thing I would ask to all our speakers and people joining us, remember to speak quite slowly so we can help our interpretation colleagues. Thank you very much. Okay, next slide, please, Simon. Thank you. So this afternoon, in the next 1 hour, we'll be talking about our work around document links and the IATI standard. Our colleague Yemi, the Executive Director of IATI, will open with remarks to give us some context and support. And then our colleague Simon will present some of the key findings that we had when looking at this aspect of the IATI standard. Followed by that will be our colleague Leila, who will demonstrate the analysis workbook that you may have had a look at already, but Leila will talk us through that. That will then give us time and space for questions and discussions. So as I mentioned, please use the chat. And when we come to discussions, you can raise your hand, which would be most welcome. And finally, a quick wrap up to talk about the next steps, including the fact that we have another call next week to look at some use cases for this work as well. So we have the call today and then a call next Tuesday as well. Okay, so that's the agenda. We're running well to time, so I'm going to hand over. Next slide, please, Simon. Next slide, please, Simon. Hand over to Yemi, Executive Director of the International Aid Transparency Initiative. And Yemi, you're going to give us a bit of a context and a wider picture before we dive deep into the data. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you very much, Stephen. And a very good morning, afternoon, and evening to everyone present today from wherever you are and you're joining us. We truly appreciate you. Thank you very much for joining. As Stephen highlighted, my name is Yemsra Chasafa. I am the Executive Director for IATI and truly delighted to be here today. And I just wanted to say it's an absolute pleasure for me to be with you, to have this opportunity to dialogue. It's a dialogue, so it's very important to recognize it as such, which is a very important dialogue as we're launching this new dialogue series, which is IATI State of the Data, Document Links in an AI Era. I think the title says it all. Let me begin by offering a very heartfelt thanks to all of you present today, our community of publishers, partners, analysts, innovators, who continue to make IATI such a vibrant, valuable, and forward-thinking initiative. We truly appreciate that. Your dedication to open, timely and high quality data has brought us to this very, very important moment. As Stephen highlighted, the State of Data series is a comprehensive exploration of IATI data. We wanted to start through a particular area of data where there is a growing interest and value for our members, linked documents. Linked document, yes. Document links might sound very simple, very technical, just a way to reference some sort of document. It could be a budget, an evaluation, or a contract. But as the report shows today, and as the dialogue would demonstrate over the next few minutes, they are critical connecting tissues in the information ecosystem. They ground our data in a real world evidence and create a trail of activity to impact. Very important. This is much more than a technical report, therefore. It's a window into the evolving landscape of transparency, trust, and transformation in international cooperation. This is the latest analysis that we will be sharing today, which will be telling us a compelling story. We have over close to 500,000 unique document links in IATI. Most of them are PDF files, and most are in English, of course. And the vast majority are published by a small set of multilateral organizations and government agencies. We will dive into it to see the numbers and the details today, to explore this deep resource, and I call it a gold mine, and to start to unpack how usable and useful these documents organize it. We are now drafting our next strategic plan for 2026 to 2030. That is shaped by a very bold vision that IATI must evolve and move from data publication to data activation, helping drive decisions, inclusion, and investment in real time. Therefore, it's very critical that we use these very important resources. I just came back from concluded a very successful fourth international conference for financing development in Spain, and just last week, which ended very well. IATI is considered in the outcome document as a very important initiative to drive transparency in development cooperation. We're not only recognized in the document itself, but we are also approved in one of the action areas to drive interoperability and data transparency as we move along. Very promising at the same time. That's a huge recognition for us. All of you have put in making it happen. So we will be effort will be making development more visible, more comparable, and more accountable, therefore. And alongside technological change, including transformation, we will see prototypes from, for example, from our members like FCDO, Development Explorer, and Aid Insights AI, and experimentation from across our community to extract meaningful information and insight to bridge data with policy and decisions. These experiments are prototypes, and they will be focused on a second part of our discussion, as Stephen highlighted earlier on. We will be sharing a report. It will show the snapshot and the springboard for our discussion today. It answers many of the questions that you already have. What use cases we wanted to support now and into the future? How do we ensure all kinds of data, including text, are usable for machine and the people? And what would it take to make document links trusted, living part of our shared data infrastructure? And most importantly, how do we move from analysis to action? So it is a very exciting discussion. So today represents for us a momentous occasion, of course, reflecting the opportunity to embark on a new chapter in international transparency. I would not make our opening remark very long, but I just wanted to say that it's an exciting moment. We look forward for all of you to discuss with us today, contributing the discussion, and we welcome all comments, suggestions, and I really wanted to wish everybody today a wonderful discussion, and I would hand it back to Stephen. Thank you very much. Over.
Thank you, Yemi, so much. That was great to hear, and great to hear about the context from last week in Seville as well. Certainly. So we're going to start, first of all, with that analysis and take a look at these document links in IATI data. And first of all, Simon, you're going to take us through some of the highlights and the headlines from the analysis. So over to you, Simon. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Stephen. And good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. The IATI Secretariat has a role to help publishers improve data quality, its coverage, and its usage. IATI data should be useful, usable, and in use. And our State of the Data series will look at specific parts of the IATI Standard through this lens. So this is our first quarterly analysis. It explores how IATI data links to documents and how usable they are. Our hope is that this provokes discussion amongst data publishers and users alike. This presentation has 4 parts: the introduction, then why we did this work, how we did it, and what we found. Then Layla will give us a live demonstration of the application. We're aiming to keep this fairly brief, around 20 minutes, to allow for a decent amount of discussion time in the rest of the call. So, first of all, what are document links? Briefly, the document link element allows reporting organisations to publish links to documents that are relevant to their organisation and/or a particular activity. The document link element appears in both organisation and activity files. In fact, it can appear in multiple places in an activity file. So an important thing to note is that document links point to where the actual documents are published. IATI does not store the documents, and they're not contained within IATI files. The document links element also includes the ability to describe the format, language, and category of the document linked to. It's important to know that these documents have always been produced and they've always been linked to from IATI data. And here are just 3 examples of documents linked to in IATI data. One is a web page on the African Development Bank's map of Africa and 2 reports, one in English, published by the FCDO, and the other in French, published by Belgium Development Corporation. So why now? Why do this now? Documents used to be considered problematic by many people in the open data world, especially when data was shared as a PDF. Historically, these have been considered as unstructured and difficult to access, especially when compared with well-formed structured data. But with the advent, especially of large language models that can process large amounts of text, we now view PDFs and other documents as an actual goldmine. But of course, before you dig a mine, you take a survey. And this is our survey that we're presenting today. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how we did this. And it's important to note that Layla and I are presenting the work today, but it's been a collaboration across the IATI Secretariat. Firstly, we access the data in the dataset instance of IATI tables, and we also use the IATI Registry API. We used a project in DeepNote to connect to IATI tables, download the data, and then analyze it. So the IATI Secretariat has been using DeepNote to create analysis that helps us in our work internally. This is the first project that we specifically developed to share as a one-off snapshot with you. We use DeepNote because it allows us to write analysis using code in a structured way. And we can also include blocks of text. This means that we can write analysis in a story-like form where we describe what we're doing and why. And we find this is particularly useful for sharing with other analysts. We then wrote a Streamlit application that takes the data saved from the DeepNote project and presents it on the web. So in summary, we download IATI data from IATI tables, analyze it in DeepNote, and present it using Streamlit. Essentially here, we have 3 products from this work. The application that we shared with the community, and which is the focus of today's webinar, that's Streamlit. The project in DeepNote, which is available for anyone who wants to see how we did the analysis. And then we've also pushed the notebook code to GitHub for anybody who wants to reuse or collaborate on it. So, what have we found? These are just a few selected highlights. The analysis has been available for a few weeks, so we hope people have had the chance to look at it already. And we also want to leave as much time for discussion at the end, so we'll be relatively brief in the highlights that we present. So 929 reporting organisations publish out of a total of 1,767. So that's 53% of organisations who publish at least one document link. In all, there are a little over 1.5 million links. These include duplicates. So of these, 441,986 unique links are in IATI data. It's worth reiterating that this is a snapshot in time that was run on the 16th of June. You will see different numbers if you run this today. Johanna, I know you queried the absence of Global Affairs Canada data. We did run the notebook twice on the 16th, and neither time included your data, unfortunately. That said, when we ran the notebook on the 5th of July, there were over 524,000 unique links, and this did include Global Affairs Canada data. DeepNote can be scheduled to run on a regular basis, but we've chosen for now not to run it every day, as this is a piece of analysis for sharing and not an ongoing tool or service. So Yemi mentioned this in her introduction. 90.7% of documents are linked to by multilateral or government organisations. And in fact, just 5 reporting organisations publish over half of all document links. So for us, this raises questions such as how well this reflects the whole IATI publisher community and who could be missing from the picture. 57.9% of documents are declared as being PDFs. As I mentioned before, we used to treat PDFs as hard to use. But is our hypothesis correct? Has this changed with the advent of large learning models? And English language documents predominate, with 78% of links that declare stating they're in English. And the second most popular language is Nauru. So can anybody guess why? I'm not going to wait for answers in the chat, don't worry. It's because one organisation is using the code NA for not applicable when it's the 2-digit code for Nauru. So this highlights a couple of things. It highlights an opportunity to improve data quality as part of our State of the Data briefings. And it also raises the question again of how well this reflects the whole IATI publisher community when such a high proportion of documents are published in English. The most popular category is budget, with just over 150,000 links declaring they contain budget information. Just over 115,000 documents contain results information, and just over 102,000 contain objectives or purpose. We asked you in our news item announcing this analysis who benefits from what's in these documents and what might be missing. So just as signposts can break, so can document links. Publishing a link in an IATI file doesn't guarantee there's actually a document at the end of it. With that in mind, we developed some analysis that investigates the accessibility of document links. So this gives us an idea of how the servers hosting documents respond to access requests made by software. It could be quite different if you were to manually load each of these links through a web browser, although it would take a lot longer. It's worth noting that only 6% of document links were 404 not found, but about a third of documents were refused in one way or another by the server. I'm going to hand over to Layla now, and she'll give us a live demonstration of the application and go into the findings a bit more. Over to you, Layla.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. And now I'm going to walk you through the, just want to make sure that everyone can see the application now, right? Okay. I'm going to walk you through the application to show how we've turned our analysis into something interactive, accessible, and easy to explore. So let's start on the homepage. This briefly explains why this analysis matters. Simon already covered most of what's here, so I'll summarize. As AI and automation become more important, linked documents can add valuable contents. But that only works if the links are reliable and if the metadata is clear. If links are broken, missing, or unclear, the value of those documents is lost. So this app helps us answer, are document links being published well? Are they complete? Are they usable? About page. The About page describes what document links are and outlines the key questions we ask in this analysis. The rest of the application explores these questions. Let's walk through the general insight page. First, we start some summary information, and then we check how the attribute and sub-elements of document links are reported across the whole IATI. Finally, we check the availability of the documents at the end of those links. So up here, we see the big picture. Over 1.5 million document links were reported. And once we remove duplications, that leaves us around 442,000 unique ones from 929 different organizations who are publishing document links. We begin with the types of organizations publishing these links. International NGOs and national NGOs.
Morning.
International and national NGOs make up the largest number of reporting organizations. But when we switch to the volume, the actual number of document links, it's a very different picture. Multilateral and government organizations contribute the vast majority of documents, with multilateral alone publishing over 320,000 links. Which organizations are publishing the most document links? This bar chart shows the top individual publishers. The 5 most prolific, including UNDP, UNICEF, and the World Bank, together account for over 59% of all document links. Now we start analysis the content of document links, their attributes, and sub-elements. Where in the IATI standard are document links published? Document links can be declared at the organization level, activity level, and within results. 96.5% are found in the main document link element in the activity level. When were documents published? A lot of publication dates are not provided. Actually, about 68% of links have no date at all. Of the remaining, over half, you can see here, have been published in the past 6 months. Is it plausible that so many documents have been published so recently? Formats. What format are documents published in? As we can see, almost all documents declare a format, mostly PDF and HTML, which means a web page. The next two sub-elements of document links can be declared more than once. Language. What languages are documents published for? About 74% of documents declare a language. English dominates with over 250,000 entries. Other languages are rare. In fact, if we disregard narrow, the percentage of English document, sorry, the app is, I need to refresh the application.
New York.
Yeah, this is the live demo drama that happens.
Thank you, Leila. Yeah, it's waking up.
Yeah, it takes maybe a few seconds.
So we were talking about the
I can
language.
carry on about the language, yeah.
Yeah.
So in fact, if we disregard narrow, the percentage of English document rises to over 91%. Most document links only declare one language. And then what we are going to go to categories. I'm sorry that this still is, okay, now we have it. Yes. About the categories, I'm going to carry on with this because of the time, basically. 97% of links declare at least one category. The most common type is budget. I'm going to show it to you now. Yes, we are in the categories and we see the budget here, which is the most common one. And as we can see in this bar chart, more than half of the document links list more than one category.
Hello, good morning.
And finally, are the documents available? So if you look at this pie chart, we can see that about 58% of links responded with 200 OK, meaning they're working fine. 24% here returned 403 forbidden, which means the link exists, but access is blocked. That could be because it needs a login or permission settings are too strict. 6% gave a 404 not found. These are broken links. The documents may have been deleted or the URLs mistyped. Actually nearly 8% returned 429, too many requests. That means the server tells us to slow down because we are checking too many links too quickly. We've already improved our process to reduce this. Originally, the 429 rate was much higher before we added smart delays and retry logic. Around 2% returned 520, which means the server had a problem but didn't explain what went wrong. And finally, less than 2% are other uncommon responses. We can see in the gray area. Okay, having looked at the document links in the aggregate, we now can allow people to look at individual organizations. So we move into organization detail page. So here we see this drop down. You can choose any organization from this drop down. By default, it shows UNDP, which is the most prolific publisher. You'll see that most of their links come from activity files, which mirrors the broader trend. Here, there are different tabs that break down their reporting. Let's go to timeline. The timeline graph is empty, as we don't see any dates in UNDP's data. As 68% of document links have no date, we expect you'll see this elsewhere. Formats. UNDP publish more documents as web page rather than PDF. Categories. At first glance, the document categories looks very similar to general insight page, but UNDP publish 31,830 tender documents, and the total is only 53,910, meaning that UNDP publish 59% of all tender documents. Languages, as expected, most of the languages like is English. Availability, UNDP documents are more available than average, with over 83% successful, we see in this blue part. And although that leaves 1 in 6 that are broken, which is 404. Next page is explore and download. This section is for filtering and accessing process data. You can filter by publisher, organization type, publication date, and then view the result in this table. And then if you want, you can download it as CSV by clicking this button. Methodology page. Well, I'm clicking on the methodology page, but apparently doesn't move me to that. Anyway, Simon already mentioned the flow of the analysis. This methodology page, which I hope that works, but you already seen it anyway. This methodology page gives a high-level explanation of how we did the work. Importantly, it also provides links to Deep Note project and the GitHub, here we go, and the GitHub repository where we share our notebooks and code. And at the end is next step page. In this page, we invited the IATI community to join today and next week and helps us shape the what comes next, actually. We are really pleased that so many of you have shown an interest, and we look forward to your comments and questions. With that said, I'm going to hand back to Steven and stop sharing, obviously.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Leila, for doing a live demo. That's really great to see. Thank you, and thanks to Simon also for the broader analysis, the slides as well. I thought it was really interesting. But first of all, the technology that we're using, the off-shelf technology, Deep Note and other things, which means we can do this quite quickly, relatively speaking. And then for me, the fascinating pieces were the PDFs and the number of PDFs. It would be great for people to discuss that. And also, yeah, getting into, are the documents there? If a link exists, is the document there? Is really, really helpful. And we will be sharing the slide decks and all the things as well, just a note in chat. So we've got about 20 or 15 minutes, 15 or 20 minutes for questions and points and discussions. So as I mentioned before, if you could put your hand up or ask for a question in the chat, any points you've got about the analysis, the IATI standard, the technology, where do we go next? It's always difficult, the first question, the first person, but I'm hoping in amongst our 60 people here, someone has got a question to start us off with. And it's the awkward silence bit whilst we wait for that question. Has anybody got a question about the document links? What does it mean? How do we do the analysis? How do we use the data? And we have Bill. Thank you, Bill. So I think you can unmute yourself, Bill, and take it away. Is that yes? Great. Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for punishment. Right. Yeah, I'm just very interested in terms of the next steps and whether this is something that you guys are going to be doing or whether you're just sort of providing now for that the community needs to pick up the reins. Because I think there's quite a lot of work, and whether it's, that to step in and start training a bit of data or doing, I don't know what's coming next week in terms of what is being done to date, because I mean I've played around with this a bit and it's a lot more complicated, and in a way one can't just rely on the off-shelf models. One really needs to sort of get one's hands dirty. Just one thought was that there's two pieces of work that I'm aware of. One, I can't remember, I've asked you this before, Stephen, that in the Rome Mini tag many years ago, there was a demonstration of some work that was done on agriculture, extracting sectoral data using NLP. And secondly, Alex Miller did some work, I think last year or the year before, assessing how accurate the World Bank and UK commitments to climate financing were by comparing the purpose codes published against the documents. So those are two concrete pieces of work that have been, I don't know what of any others, and whether that's the starting point and maybe sort of persuading Alex, who's now in a full-time employment elsewhere, to come and share his experience.
Thank you, Bill. Really helpful questions. I think there's a couple of answers. Skipping forward to next week, we will hear from colleagues from FCDO specifically who've built some models to look at the document links and analyze them. But in discussions with them as well, I think they had to do a lot of work to understand, for example, do the links exist, etc. So there's a balance I think we need to discuss about what could we, the IATI Secretariat, do to help these links become more useful to those that use them, and how can we share and exchange knowledge in doing so, for example, as you say, with the previous work and ongoing models and such things. So we're trying to understand the balance, but I think the first thing we're doing is understanding, in 15 years of people publishing links, what is the state of that data particularly? And as we can see, lots of PDFs and a bit too many broken links at the moment, we feel. But yeah, but thank you, Bill. Hopefully that answers. And I see we have another question. Help me out, colleagues. I think Humberto. I didn't see the order, so Annalisa, perhaps you could cue the next person. And by all means, come back, Bill.
Yes, that was Humberto. And of course, you can access interpretation in case Humberto is speaking in Spanish. Humberto, please unmute yourself.
Buenos días. Buenos días, una vez más les saludo a todos. Muchas gracias por la invitación que le hicieron a nuestra Federación Departamental de Productores Agropecuarios de Boyacá, Colombia. Mi participación consiste en lo siguiente: ¿qué tanto están ustedes pensando o mirando hacia país de nosotros, dado de la importancia y la necesidad que se tiene de los recursos que manejan a nivel mundial para el tema agropecuario. Nosotros estamos en una transición hacia la agroecología, porque cuando nacimos éramos 100% agropecuarios, pero vemos la importancia y la necesidad, según lo que nos sugiere la FAO, de que todos nos volvamos agroecológicos. Entonces, esa es mi participación, dado de que es importante para nosotros poder obtener esos recursos tan necesarios para desarrollar proyectos que primeramente beneficien a la población rural, porque a veces se nos olvida de que si el campesino no trabaja en la mesa, no hay nada para comer. Entonces, nosotros nos hemos enfocado en ello y queremos aprovechar este espacio para lanzar un SOS con respecto a los recursos que se están distribuyendo y de qué manera, porque aquí tenemos varias asociaciones campesinas que hacen parte de nosotros como federación, ya que somos un conjunto de asociaciones campesinas y fundaciones, pero tenemos asociaciones donde literalmente no hay agua potable. ¿Y cómo podríamos producir alimentos si no hay agua potable? Entonces, asimismo, no hay energía y no hay conectividad. Empezando que si no hay recursos básicos para el campesino, se hace muy difícil producir alimentos que lleguen a los mercados para poderlos consumir. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Humberto. I think it's a really valuable input about when we think about these documents that contain a wealth of information. Some of the things we haven't looked at so far in the analysis is, for example, which country or which sector do those documents apply to? But it's certainly very possible we've learned from partners and colleagues that that's useful within the IATI standard. And I'm hoping next week when we talk about an application to look at these documents and understand lessons learned or outputs and outcomes across programs, whether they be in Colombia or elsewhere, we could really get to the heart of that by using these documents. So do bear with us, Humberto. And I think we can begin to unearth where and how we could use this in such an important use case. Thank you. Annalisa, who had their hand next, I believe?
The next hand was Cos Potter from Korea University, and following that, then Alex Tilley from Publish What You
And Alex.
So with those
Thank
two
you.
first.
Thank you. Over to you,
Great.
Cos.
Great. Hi, Cos Potter, Korea University Development Futures Lab. And I had the pleasure of looking at the IATI Standard and data resources on behalf of the UNDP last year. So I'm really excited to see the work that you guys are doing here to actually move into accessing this gold mine as it was characterized. So that's really wonderful to see. My question is whether or not you've been able to assess the sort of representativeness of these broken links, right? I mean, a little, well, actually, one side comment is, of course, some of these, as you know, right, the art is our artifact of the way that websites are run, right? All of the documents are probably published in the last 6 months because those web pages have been updated or something, right? But you mentioned all of these broken links, and I'm just curious if you've had an opportunity to look to see if it's particular organizations that have broken links, or if there's a sort of representativeness within the organizations across, or projects, et cetera, across the board that would allow us to use that kind of data for analytical purposes, not necessarily sort of a complete data set, but if the links are missing in a sort of systematic way, there are forms of analysis we can do. So I'm just curious if you've had a chance to look at that. I'm sure it's a very complicated process to do that, but so I assume no, but.
Would you like me to take that one, Stephen?
Yes, please. Yes, and then we'll go to Alex. Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Cos.
Cheers. Thanks, Cos. So I'll pick up on and answer a couple of things there. First of all, on the document date, the document date isn't taken from the server where it's published. It's taken from the IATI data. So essentially IATI data is acting as metadata when it gives the document date, and so it's based on that. Then we do have the raw data, if you like, in which we could perform analysis such as enable people to filter down by the organization, by the type of organization, and by the type of responses that we're getting. And certainly that would mean that we could look and see whether there were particular organizations that were denying our requests, and we could go down the route of trying to find out exactly why that is. We found just with IATI data, not with documents which are typically held on a different server, but with IATI data publication, that we're seeing more cases, not massive amounts, but significantly enough of large organizations that apply things such as Cloudflare and that block programmatic access to their servers. So we could do some of that. We decided with this analysis that what we wanted to do was guillotine the amount of work we were doing on this, give people enough in the community so that we could share and could open up a conversation and hear from people whether they would want any more work being done, such as you've suggested. I think that's probably enough to give time for Alex to ask his question. So, Alex.
Thank you, Simon. So my question, this is something that we look at a lot with the A Transparency Index. So documents and reviewing documents is one of the kind of major things we do with the A Transparency Index. And thinking ahead to the 2026 iteration of the A Transparency Index, I'm just wondering whether this is something we can incorporate into the criteria we use to assess documents, because obviously the purpose of the index is to incentivize better publishing practices and better quality documents being published. And we have some criteria that we use, so as well as some of the stuff that you pointed out in terms of things like broken links, we also, when we're going through and reading and looking at the documents, we also find other kind of issues that we flag. So things like the wrong type of document being published under a particular document category, or documents not being up to date, for example. So if there's like regular evaluations being published or regular results being published, these might be out of date, and that's something that we would look to that would get a bad score in the index. So just sort of thinking about the use of, what would be useful in terms of AI being able to process documents. There are other things as well that we might want to sort of think about when we're doing these assessments. So for example, one thing that we see a lot is a document link that goes to a web page, but that you then have to search on that web page to find the relevant document. And I don't think AI would be able to do that. So that might be something where we would, at the moment, we might pass that in the index, but it's something that maybe we need to think about not allowing. And then there's other issues as well as these kind of issues with document relevance, document quality, documents being in date, linking to web pages and not directly to the information. There's also non-readable PDFs as well as readable PDFs, right? So some PDFs are machine readable and the text can be searched and used, but others are like an image that's printed into a PDF. Often we might get that with contracts, for example, which wouldn't be able to be read. So I suppose my point would be that as we're thinking about this, it'd be useful to kind of communicate and coordinate with you guys as you're thinking about it, because we could incorporate some of this stuff into our criteria that we use when we're doing the index assessment. And it might be useful for you to have some of our feedback as well about the kind of things we come across in documents and that could be useful for when you're thinking about doing your analysis.
Great. Thanks, Alex. Yeah, no, certainly. I think an output we want to have from this work is improved and better guidance for publishers, so we can focus here on what makes a good document link, and all the characteristics you share there would be really helpful. So if we can take that to IATI Connect, for example, that would be really, really helpful, and I'll flag that at the end. We've got 9 minutes, and we do want to end on time. And I think, Annalisa, we've got some questions in chat, but also I can see 3 hands.
Yeah.
And if I ask colleagues to keep brief, thank you.
Yeah, Stephen, just to point out that in the chat, people are saying that they're not finding what they're expecting to do through this tool. Is this a good moment to just point people to dPortal if they're where they find everything they need, and just reiterate that this is simply a one-off snapshot tool and not the go-to? Did you want to say something about that? And then we can go to Espoir as the next person.
Espoir. Yes, certainly. So if you can't find what you're looking for through the analysis, it's great to hear that. And there are other ways that we can wrap up and communicate to. And again, to reiterate, this analysis was something to spark the conversation. It's not a tool that would have much longevity in the scheme of IATI at least. But thank you for the feedback. And over to Espoir. And then we'll try to take the last 2 questions and then wrap up. Over to you.
Yes, good morning. Good morning, good morning. My name is Espoir Mlangaliro Miro here in Congo. I'm with this. I'm a partnership with UNDP. Some projects here in Congo, here in DRC. We work in environment program and in some project to develop some people in Congo. I say thank you to participate with this webinar with you. Thank you, merci.
Thank you, Espoir. I think the line was a bit broken there, but I heard about UNDP and Congo, and thank you. If anyone else can help me out, we'll take the next question. Is it William? Annalisa?
William.
William. Over to you, William. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for giving me the floor. My English is not good, but I will speak in French. Ok, merci pour la présentation. J'avais quelques questions. Donc, mes questions sont déjà l'initiative d'aller vers les document links promue par l'IATI. Est-ce que ça rime à la nomenclature SDMX? Première question, la nomenclature SDMX promue par les organismes de statistiques internationaux. Deuxième question, pour nous, moi je suis par exemple, je suis au département de gestion de la dette publique, donc nous utilisons la plateforme IATI, nous consommons plus les données. Donc, est-ce que pour nous qui sommes des entités consommatrices mais pas productrices d'informations pour les partenaires, comment est-ce qu'on doit se comporter pour optimiser l'utilisation de cet environnement? Troisièmement, vous avez présenté les outils sommairement, mais je vais un peu, peut-être, est-ce que c'est possible d'entrer dans le détail pour que nous, peut-être à terme, l'idée c'est que nous, en consommant les données, on ne se retrouve plus en train du moins, est-ce qu'il faut qu'on update nos plateformes pour consommer ces données ou non? Ça, c'est les 3 premières questions que j'ai. J'en avais d'autres, mais je vais peut-être poser en off plus tard. Merci.
Stephen, did you want to take those ones before we take a final question?
Oh, yes, thank you, William. Very briefly, I think certainly you raise important points there about how to behave when consuming these links. And I think that goes back to Bill's question about what do we want to achieve going forward. I think the methodology will give you all the tools, but we'll make sure, and by all means, give us feedback. And I caught the first point about classifications and such, and a point I didn't make. The IATI document category classification has been in there 15 years, and we haven't reviewed that as a community. And maybe there's a chance going forward to think about what are the categories or classifications that we need as well. I hope that answers your questions. I don't think it did fully, but let's take Casol, and then to wrap up and make sure we finish on time. And we can always discuss online and next week as well. Over to you, Casol.
Hello, how you doing? Nice, really good presentation. I had a question. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I had a question for you guys. I work a lot with data and with clients filling in forms. And what I try to do is use as less possible as metadata. So I was wondering if you had like plans to, for instance, with time read the document and see what language it is, right? Like detect it automatically to see what language it is, or maybe like have a system that checks what format it is, or like things like that. Maybe like even now that with cheap data, right? Like you can save the links to like a Google Drive. You can get two like a 2 T of data for pretty cheap per month and stuff like that. So I was thinking of those two questions: how to use less metadata, and also like how to, now that data is cheap, how to save the data instead of the links, because the links will always be modified. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Casol. I think that's a really helpful point as well. Is again, it's the balance between the data being published using the data standard and the fields and the attributes that we've talked about versus how much can we gather from the documents that are linked to and surface out to people using the data. I think that's the discussion we need to have in the next few weeks and months. How much does that become a service for the community versus how much can the community do that itself without having to do each and everything time and time again. So again, really, really important point. And so far, we've done very little with these links, I would say, over the past 15 years. We've just had them published around the activities. So we know some metadata, but not the things you're asking. So let's explore that again in discussions and next week. And it's 2 minutes to the hour. So I want to make sure we finish on time. And apologies, we haven't had the fuller dialogue we might have hoped, but we have 90 minutes next week as well. So I'm hoping today we'll open up some debates and then we bring them back next week. Simon, would you kindly share the last pieces? Okay, thank you.
Stephen, can
Lisa,
I just flag that there are a couple of really interesting points coming up in the chat. One from Nicholas, who's referring to the fact that the internet may be closing rather than opening based on bot behavior is the same used to train LLMs and run search engines or even do this research. So, and then there's a bit of more conversation going on there. Did you want to take up some of those or invite people to discuss further next week?
Well, we've seen in the past year or so that IATI data sets are often blocked by Cloudflare and other technologies. So we're having some challenges accessing the XML, the IATI XML in general. So it's as you can imagine, getting to the documents that are linked to is another thing. So I would certainly would like to see us have more discussion around that. We have produced some guidance for data publishers around avoiding bot blocking, but it doesn't always work out. It seems very different from those early years when we were just everyone was opening data and it was fine. So thank you, Nicholas, and we are short of time. So we'll take that up again online and next week. Next week, we have a 90-minute call. We're taking this on another step, I think, or a logical step about, okay, IATI and the AI era. We have colleagues from BMZ, the German ministry, who are using AI to improve their data and their descriptions. Then we have colleagues from the FCDO, the Frontier Tech Hub, who are using these document links to gather and generate insights and intelligence on top of that. So answering some of the points from me today. And another project, aidinsights.ai, and we'll send you everybody the link, is a new dashboard that enables us to interrogate IATI data using some of these models, these AI models. Finally, so that's next Tuesday. We hope to see you there and your friends. And finally, Simon, the last slide, just to give a bigger picture. So please join us for the discussion on IATI Connect. We'll send everybody the link. In September, we're carrying on with the state of the data and looking at another part that people are very excited about. It's organizations and their references, and how do we describe each other in the data in common ways so we know we're talking about the same organization. It's a big challenge and very interesting topic. And then in December, we'll be releasing the review of IATI State of Data, which includes this, our other topics, and several other pieces. So we hope there's going to be plenty for us to get involved with and have a discussion around. We're on the hour. We're 1 minute past. I would like to thank everybody for coming along this afternoon, to our speakers, our researchers, and the questions and queries. And let's continue this to discuss online, and let's hopefully see you and other people next week, if that's okay.